Hey everybody, how's it going? Matthew Kadish here, author of the Earthman Jack Space Saga, available on Amazon.com. And today we are going to be talking about some new horror movie news. And basically, the Saw franchise is being resurrected, which isn't surprising because the Saw franchise is probably one of the most successful horror franchises in movie history. I believe it's grossed over like $1 billion or something like that for its production company, Lionsgate. So the last Saw movie come out, it was called Jigsaw. It didn't really do all that well. It was kind of the swan song of the current iteration of the Saw franchise. And after that, it was just kind of shelved. So basically, Lionsgate probably was looking for a way to resurrect this franchise or reboot it in some way, shape, or form, because that's been a big trend going on recently with horror movies in particular, like, for instance, the Halloween franchise that just got rebooted. So horror movie franchises get rebooted all the time, very successfully usually. But Jigsaw came out in 2017, I believe, so it's only been like about 2 years since we had a Saw movie in the theaters. And, so I'm sure that the people over at Lionsgate were looking for a way to, kind of reboot this thing. And along comes Chris Rock. Chris Rock is set to reboot the Saw franchise with Lionsgate and Twisted Pictures. So this is an article from Deadline that kind of lays out the information here. So I'm just going to go through this real quick to give you guys an update on what's going on. Chris Rock is teaming with Lionsgate and Twisted Pictures for a fresh reimagining on the next Saw movie. The comedian multi-hyphenate has written a story that is being adapted by Pete Goldfinger and Josh Stolberg, and Rock will executive produce. Lionsgate has dated the film for release on October 23rd, 2020. When Chris Rock came to us and described in chilling detail his fantastic vision that reimagines and spins off the world of the notorious Jigsaw killer, we were all in, said Lionsgate Motion Picture Group Chairman Joe Drake. Saw is one of the highest-grossing horror franchises of all time, and it's one of Lionsgate's most successful film series. The upcoming film will still be as mind-bending and intense as all the previous Saw films. Chris conceived this idea, and it will be completely reverential to the legacy of the material, while reinvigorating the brand with his wit, creative vision, and passion for this classic horror franchise. Said Rock, I've been a fan of Saw since the first film in 2004. I am excited by the opportunity to take this to a really intense and twisted new place. Added longtime series producers Mark Berg and Orrin Coles, Chris wants to put his own spin on the Saw franchise in the way Eddie Murphy put a completely fresh perspective on buddy cop films with 48 Hours. This new Saw is going to be an event film in the making for horror fans. It will have all the twists and turns and hardcore layers that our fans expect, directed by one of the masters of the craft, Darren Lynn Bousman. Now, for those of you who don't know, Darren Lynn Bousman was the director of Saw 2, Saw 3, and Saw 4. So he is a kind of stalwart of the Saw movie franchise, but I don't know if I'd call him master of the craft because he really hasn't done anything other than the Saw movies. I mean, he's done a few things, but nothing of note. Anyway, we can't wait to get started. Blumhouse and Miramax recently reaped great success when they reawakened Halloween with hard comedic duo Danny McBride as writer and executive producer, and filmmaker David Gordon Green, to the tune of $254 million plus at the global box office. The best results ever for the 41-year-old franchise. The next Saw movie will be produced by Berg and Orrin and be directed by Bousman, who helmed 3 of the most successful films in the Saw franchise. The film will be executive produced by Rock, longtime Saw executive producer Daniel Hefner, and original creators of Saw, James Wan and Lee Whannell. This kind of goes on to say what Rock's going to be in next. He can be seen in the Sally Potter film Molly and Netflix's Dolomite Is My Name. In the fall, he heads to production for Season 4 of FX MGM's drama series Fargo, which I cannot wait for, because Fargo is awesome. And goes through a bunch of other stuff here. So basically the way this works is there's been kind of this weird resurgence in or I should say crossover between comedians or people who are known for like their comedic talents and horror films recently. Like it said in the article, Danny McBride, who you might know from Eastbound and Down. He was the writer and executive producer of the Halloween movie franchise, or the Halloween movie reboot of that franchise, which is a little bit surprising because you wouldn't kind of associate someone like Danny McBride with the Halloween franchise, and yet he was kind of the driving force behind getting that rebooted. Then you have someone like Jordan Peele, who was known for comedy, and he basically, got into the horror movie field, and he won an Oscar for it. So I mean, like that was surprising as well. But you have all these comedians who are kind of getting into the horror field, and now Chris Rock, I think he took a look at what happened with Jordan Peele and the success Jordan Peele was having behind the scenes, and he probably said, "I want to get in on that." Basically, Rock's movies that he's like produced or written or directed or what have you, they haven't really been very successful projects by and large. I mean, like, I'm sure that for what they cost to make, they probably did okay, but he's never had that big blockbuster hit or critical acclaim or anything like that. Now, on the stand-up comedy end of things, it's been completely opposite because people love Chris Rock when he's doing his stand-up. But when he's done his scripted stuff, it's been very hit or miss, and for the most part, largely ignored by movie audiences in general. I think the biggest thing that he ever did was Pootie Tang. That seemed to have gotten the most kind of media attention, but it wasn't a good movie. It wasn't very funny. It had funny bits to it, but that was something that Chris Rock kind of conceived of and wrote and produced. I'm not sure if he directed it or not, but I know that he was kind of the brains behind kind of pushing Pootie Tang, and it didn't really work out. And, Chris Rock, he's also not a very versatile actor. I mean, like, he's tried to cross over into more dramatic roles before and hasn't really had much success at that. But I think that when Jordan Peele won his Oscar for Get Out, Chris Rock was probably looking at that and being like, you know what, maybe I should try my hand at horror, because that seems to be something that not only more comedians are getting into, but you can win an Oscar for doing it, the right way. So my guess is that he, this is true. He was a fan of the Saw franchise, and he probably approached Lionsgate and said like, hey, I have an idea for a new Saw movie. Can we work together? And Lionsgate was probably desperate for a way to kind of breathe new life into this franchise because it's one of their big money makers. And they were like, yes, please come on board. We'd love to work with you. And that's how this whole thing got started. So let's talk about what we know about the Saw reboot to date. This is an article from Screen Rant, and it kind of gives us a quick rundown of what we know. Basically, the story was something that Rock came up with himself, and it supposedly kind of remains true to the core tenet of the Saw franchise, which is there's this brilliant killer, and he puts people in these weird situations where they have to basically escape these death traps, oftentimes at great personal or psychological cost. And so like there's like a little bit of a mystery involved, and there's all these like kind of puzzles that they have to solve, and it's it's a cool little concept. And my guess is that Rock's idea kind of sets up some spin-off potential, in the sense that there's lots of different ways where the franchise can go once he's established kind of like his central concept here. And it's unclear whether or not the Jigsaw Killer, is going to be coming back, because, in all honesty, they kind of beat the whole Jigsaw Killer thing to death. So my guess is that it's probably going to be something different. And they're probably not going to bring Jigsaw back. It's probably going to be something new, and that's going to be a big twist, but that's just me speculating. So basically, let's talk about Chris Rock's role in this reboot. So, he's going to be the producer, and he was the kind of conceptual writer for, came up with the story, but he's also going to be the main character. So he's going to be the star of this new Saw movie. Rock is a central figure in the Saw's reboot development and production, the comedic actor who is already taking a big, exciting risk by moving to horror, Also has story by and executive producer credits. Rock will play the film's lead, Zeke, a detective who is investigating a string of gory murders. So it's kind of like a throwback to the original Saw, where you had Danny Glover, who was a detective investigating the Jigsaw killer. There's nothing quite like this leading role in a Saw reboot in Rock's 30-plus year career. He's done serious or, at minimum, straighter, less blatantly comedic roles in the past, such as 1991's New Jack City and 2014's Top 5. But horror is totally new territory for Rock. There have been no indicators about the film's tone, such as whether it will have hints of dark comedy or will just be played as a regular horror thriller. It would definitely be interesting to see Rock commit to playing it completely straight, a big switch to help usher in a new era of Saw. He's probably not going to play completely straight. There's definitely going to be some Chris Rock humor interjected into the story. I mean, how can there not be? But, I do think we're going to see a more serious role for him in this thing. He's not going to be, the Chris Rock of, his stand-up comedy. He's going to be playing a character. So we'll see how that goes. How the Saw reboot connects to previous films. It's still unclear whether the Saw reboot will have any firm connections to the rest of the franchise. Of course, there's a connection in the shared Saw name, but its place in continuity isn't confirmed. There's no word on if Tobin Bell, the original Jigsaw, is set to return, although considering how stretched his post-death plans already are, that may not be the best route. And I tend to agree with this. I think that if you want to breathe fresh life into the Saw franchise, no pun intended, you kind of need to move past this character of Jigsaw and take the franchise in a new direction with maybe a new killer at the heart of it. So here's some of the exciting stuff that we know in terms of the casting. So far, no actors from the original franchise have been linked to the Saw reboot. This will clear a path for an entirely new lineup to enter into the grisly, terrifying world. In addition to Chris Rock, Samuel L. Jackson has been cast to play Chris Rock's father. Max Minghella, The Social Network, he's also on, I believe it's The Handmaid's Tale. Marisol Nichols, Morgan David Jones, blah, 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 have all been added to the Saw reboot. Jackson will play Marcus, the father of Chris Rock's character. Minghella plays William Schenk, however you pronounce that, Zeke's partner, and Licari, his brother Charlie. Nichols will play Captain Angie Garcia, the head honcho overseeing Zeke and William's investigation. Jones plays Officer Barrett, and whatever that name is a man named Burns, although nothing is known about their positions in the plot. So we got a pretty interesting cast here, the biggest of which is Samuel L. Jackson. Now, Samuel L. Jackson is such a big name of an actor. I'm kind of interested to see, what exactly his role in this movie is going to be. My guess would be that he's either going to, be one of the victims of this new killer, which in turn kind of motivates Chris Rock's character Zeke to, pursue it, or he dies in the pursuit of this killer by Zeke, or, surprise twist, Samuel L. Jackson is the killer. Because it's kind of odd to put in a guy who's such a big name and not have him, play an important role. So we're going by TV mystery murder rules here. But that would be my guess. So we'll see. And of course, the Saw reboot director is familiar with the franchise. And this is Darren Lynn Bousman here, and he's directed, I think 3 out of the 5 Saw films that have come out. So he's got some pedigree here. He also co-wrote Saw 2. And then we have the Saw reboot story. So a lot of people are speculating, what's the story going to be about? The story of the Saw reboot primarily follows Chris Rock's character Zeke as he investigates a string of Jigsaw-like murders. That's similar to the original movie, which stayed for the most part in one room where 2 men, Lawrence Cary Elwes and Adam Lee Wannell, were trapped and forced to find a way to free themselves, while Detective David Tapp, Danny Glover, tried to find the men as well as the killer. Beyond that, the contents of the script written by Jigsaw's Pete Goldfinger and Josh Stolberg is unknown. So it seems like there's some similarities between this rebooted Saw movie and the original Saw movie. And we're going to have to see like what comes of it. Honestly, I can't really think of, where they're going to take this necessarily, but I'm excited to see how it's going to shake out. Because I think that Chris Rock, for all of his kind of foibles as a writer, director, producer, whatever, I think that, he might bring some kind of fresh new ideas to this franchise that might need it. And we've had a good track record of comedians getting involved with horror and making really good movies before. So hopefully this continues that trend. Anyway, what do you guys think? Are you excited about seeing a rebooted Saw movie? Do you think Chris Rock is going to breathe new life into this franchise? What are your theories on what the story could be? Let me know in the comments, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. I really appreciate the support. And for more movie, TV, and entertainment news and analysis, please be sure to check out my videos. I will see you in the next one. Later.